Hi guys, it's your two poly chicks again, Tiffany and Cindy. And today we wanted to talk about something that's near and dear to our heart, to both of our hearts. And it's a woman's issue, but it affects everyone in the family. Men should be aware of the process and things that are happening within the woman's body as well. So we are going to talk today about hysterectomies.
Yes.
And what a hysterectomy
it's not to smile about, but
yeah. The hysterectomy, I was discussing with my 9-year-old why he wouldn't have a brother or sister unless we adopted. I said, Mommy no longer has a baby bag to carry the baby in my belly. So I can't have a natural baby. And he's like, a baby bag? I said, a uterus is the bag that carries the baby. Yeah, it's the purse that carries and marinates the baby. It's the oven that cooks the baby. I couldn't say it like that. But to explain it to a 9-year-old, those are the simplest terms I could think of, is I don't have a baby bag in my belly to carry him or her. So I had to explain that to him. And that's pretty much what the hysterectomy is. It's the removal of the uterus, or as I told Donnie, the woman's baby bag or oven or whatever you like to call it, the womb. That's what it is.
It's not funny. I don't know why that makes me laugh. That's not funny, but I can't get the image of a baby bag out of my head now.
Look, that's what I had to tell, because I couldn't explain it. The medical terms, sometimes it's like confusing. So I said uterus, but I had to explain that a uterus is the woman's baby bag. That's where the baby is carried, because I still have other parts. Well, we'll get into that, but that's pretty much what it is, the removal of the woman's uterus.
Of your fun bag, your product.
Well, I was gonna say my fun bag is the not that part.
Is these, right? Don't they call you?
Well, those are fun bags, and I guess you know what? Go ahead with what you were gonna say about.
Okay, so just a couple of things.
I grew a lot. Go ahead.
I know, right? So,
go ahead.
So, just a couple of things before we talk about like the types and the reasons why women have them. Is I thought it was interesting, the word when we were growing up, I thought I always heard that they performed hysterectomies because of the word hysteria. Like women were crazy and they thought women needed like surgery to make them calm or whatever. But when I looked it up, it said the word hystero means, it's Greek for womb. So I didn't even know that. And, they started it like in the 16th century. And back in the day, 90% mortality rate. If you had a C-section, if you had a hysterectomy, then it was a 90% chance that you were going to die. I mean, it's still very dangerous. It's still a very intrusive and dangerous surgery, but 90%. Yeah. And they said they only did it on cancer patients. They didn't do it like what they do it now. They do it for a lot of things now.
For a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And they said that with the introduction of anesthesia, can you imagine having that surgery without anesthesia? Without anesthesia. And remember, you were scared of the anesthesia. Well, how about they offered you not having it?
I was going to say they had to be drunk or high. They had cocaine and all of that other stuff. So that's kind of like the same thing, I'm guessing.
You were nervous. You were nervous about the anesthesia, but there's an option for not having it.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, unless, like I said, I have the strongest, most potent, what do you call it? Painkiller out there.
Yeah, liquor. So, and they were saying that, with antibiotics and anesthesia, of course, is not as dangerous. Now, what I really didn't know is the second most common surgery for women, other than C-sections, and that more than 500,000 or 600,000 cases are done. More than 500 or 600 are done annually. 600,000 are done annually, and there's been 20 million done so far.
Wow.
And 35% of them are in women over 60, and 30% to 40% are from fibroids.
Oh man.
Which affect, people of color, women, women over a certain age, weight and stuff, and your diet. So I just thought that was like the politics around it is so interesting to me that, if you think fibroids, that's a lot of African American women have that. So then that means it increases your chances that you're gonna have a hysterectomy. And but then I thought it was interesting that less than 100,000 cases of men with a prostatectomy. You ever heard of that surgery when you have prostate cancer? They call it a prostatectomy, whatever that word, prostatectomy. Only less than 100,000 men have that, but 500,000 women have hysterectomies.
Wow.
And I just thought it was just very interesting. So those are just the
Well,
boring details of it.
I was gonna say, I think it's because the women's body, our bodies go through a lot from the time we hit puberty or out in our adolescence. We're going through growing breasts. We're going through having a menstrual cycle. We're going through having babies. We're going through menopause. So our bodies are constantly changing and evolving as our life expands and grows. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like the seasons of your life. So I think that's why women are more susceptible to having that part of, their anatomy taken out as opposed to men. So, but
maybe
there
they're
are
just
different types.
maybe they're just quick to take it. Maybe they're just quick to say, give her a hysterectomy instead of like really finding other solutions, maybe.
Maybe, but I know my hysterectomy was the best decision I made in my life, because I tried a lot of stuff before deciding to go along and have a hysterectomy, and I wish I didn't wait 3 or 4 years to have it.
It's definitely a personal thing that it's not an easy decision. Even if you don't want more children, it's not an easy decision. But I know you were going to talk about the types.
So the types of hysterectomies, it's the partial hysterectomy where they only remove a portion of the uterus. The total hysterectomy, which they remove the uterus and the cervix. The radical removes the cervix, the womb, and part of the vagina, which means your vagina is a little shortened. And then the total hysterectomy involves the ovaries and the fallopian tubes being removed in addition to the rest of it. In my situation, I still have my cervix, I still have my ovary. So when you keep your ovaries, in a lot of cases, they say that it continues your cycle, or not your cycle, it prolongs your menopause. Some people are thrown into menopause when they have their ovaries removed, and they say if you keep them, or if you are able to keep them, because some women are not able to keep them because they have cancerous cells or other things, but if you're able to keep them, they say that can prolong, especially if you're younger, your menopause and things of that nature.
Right, because when you're hearing about those types, you might wonder, well, why the heck would somebody take their cervix, their uterus, part of their vagina? Why would you do that? The lymph nodes, I think, are also in there. They will take, well, if you have cancer, it's either take out those parts or keep them and let the cancer spread to the rest of your body and eventually to your bladder, your intestines, your lungs, your everything. And also, so that goes to the reasons why people would have it, which is cancer is like obviously the main one. But like I said before, 40 to 50% of the cases of hysterectomy are done because of fibroids. Fibroids are really, really, really severely painful, cause bleeding, I'm preaching to the choir. Cause all of these issues. And so that's the reason why, you would have that. So people would be wondering, why would I take out all those parts like that? Well, if you got a cancer spreading throughout your body, you want to reduce it and leave it to that one area, you should just take the whole thing out. But people don't even know the anatomy of the body, like how it's made of. It's the uterus, which is the whole cavity. Then it has a cervix, a vagina, it has lymph nodes, it has your tubes in it, your ovaries. So it has all these parts. And so doctors decide
which parts
take out.
And which parts can be salvageable. There I go with the words. Salvageable. which parts can be salvageable and which parts cannot. And like I said, in my situation, luckily I was able to keep my ovaries and cervix. But if I had to remove whatever it was to get rid of the pain of the fibroids and the bleeding, not to be
gross,
call it graphic or gross, but it's just when my menstrual cycles were so heavy, it was like, it was just catastrophic in the
and it's never ending, and there's no amount of medicine that can fix that. Like the medicine is very simple.
Remedies, remedies,
organic food, right?
I tried so many different things, and it would stop a little bit, and then it would just come back with a vengeance. And the last straw was when, close your ears if you are queasy, I had a clot the size of like 2 fists come out of me, and I felt it pass, and I was
like a baby. Like a baby.
It scared the crap out of me when I saw it in the toilet, and I said, you know what, this is not normal, I have to do something to
You
rectify
know, Tiff, the thing about fibroids and stuff, it doesn't get a lot of play because it's non-cancerous, they say.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't get a lot of play for it. And so people walk around with those things in their body, but over time, they grow.
Yep.
They start to move into other parts of your body. You begin to get more urinary tract infections, painful sex. Hey, ain't nobody trying to do that.
Well,
So
I'm glad I didn't have that.
so,
but still,
yeah.
I mean, if you're bleeding for weeks on end, you won't be having sex anyway. For the
You won't. And you know what? Just daily life, like wanting to go to a party, wanting to wear white.
Yeah.
You know, just things like that. The other one that doesn't get a lot of play either is endometriosis was a very popular reason, or one of the ones I saw on there of why you would get a hysterectomy. Endometriosis is just when growing up, we were told, oh, it's just a painful period.
Yeah.
But it was, when I was reading up on it, some people had like such scar tissue inside their uterus, they couldn't have it was infertility. They couldn't even have babies because of it. And so you have to have a hysterectomy. Those things are like really dangerous reasons. Obviously, it's a major surgery, which you don't look at it that way, but it is major. I also read about uterine prolapse, where your uterus starts to fall. So they have to do. So they have to do like, and I know I had 3 C-sections, and so my uterus, the doctor told me it was just like mush. He was like, your uterus. He was like, you literally could die on the table. That's how people die during childbirth, because your uterus is so weak, it just won't stop bleeding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's basically what was happening. Like I said, when I first decided to have the surgery, I was like, okay, you know, the menstrual cycles are heavy, and I'm in pain. I became anemic, all of those things. And then it was just like, you know what, it kind of went away. And I don't know if it was psychological, but it kind of went away. But when it came back, I had a cycle for weeks, like weeks on end. So when you talk about sex, it's like, well, how are we having sex anyway, even if it is like with this whole thing going on? And there's different types. I was so afraid of having my stomach cut open. I had a C-section already, and just the recovery of it all. And when the doctor explained to me how he could do it with the robotics, he explained that it's minimally invasive. They make the 3 holes, and then they just, you know, chop it up. I want to say chop it up, but they
they do. They do.
Holes.
You can Google it on YouTube. You can see it. You can see it on YouTube.
Mine was so big that they had to cut a 5th hole to get it out of like my belly button area, so he wouldn't have to cut again where my C-section scar was.
Right.
It was just, there's so many different avenues. There's the minimally invasive, which may not happen with the person that's considering it. It could just be those 3 or 4 holes, and they get it out easily. But then they also have the technique where they have to cut you completely, like a C-section scar.
Yeah, across or up and down. Yeah. The thing with the minimally invasive, with the laparoscopic, is the only risk of it was that the sutures are not done by hand.
Yeah.
So they were saying there's a chance that the sutures could come loose.
Yeah.
So you could have bleeding.
I don't think I had sutures. I had, what was it? Was it glue? I think it was glue or something.
They probably glued or something, but I think they sutured something, though.
No, I don't think I had sutures, but I can't remember. It was 2 years ago, and that seems like so long ago, but
seems like forever ago. Yeah. That's what they were saying with the robot. That's the only drawback of the laparoscopic, is that it's a robotic hands doing it. So it's not the doctor's actual hands doing it. So that if you get in there and you're not doing it by yourself, you're doing it with a machine. So I mean, but it's still, the recovery time is like a third. Like it's like 3 weeks, you're better, as opposed to 6 or 7 or 8 weeks with an abdominal surgery.
Yep. And every person is different too. Every person is different with their recovery. But you also, when you talk about the minimally invasive, you also have to talk about the skill of the doctor operating that machine. And
absolutely,
not a lot of doctors that are skilled with the precision that's needed to operate the machine. It's not just a robot, you press the button and they go. It's someone operating that machine to do what they need to do.
And if you're having that surgery, you need to Google that doctor to find out his rate of success. How long has he been doing it? And if there, what are his other alternatives? I think there's only 3 ways. You're either doing it vaginally, where they're just going to take it out of your vagina. Now, keep in mind, if they're taking it out of your vagina, your cervix is going with it. So if you get it taken out of the vagina, yeah, it's just like they're gonna take everything. So, but if you take it out of the belly button, you can leave the cervix because you're just going out through the top. So I didn't even know that part. So I looked, I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And if you have it abdominally, it's just like a C-section, and it's just the process of healing is like forever. You know, it's like
but
forever.
they open you up and they can see everything that needs
to
go.
It's better, probably.
Probably.
It's better.
Yeah. Oh man, but some of the benefits, I mean, we kind of talked about it. The pain is gone with the the benefits of not having those prolonged menstrual cycles, not having clotting, not having the pain, not suffering from cancer or endometriosis if you have it. So those are a few of the benefits. And just having my gynecologist said your quality of life will improve so much. And man, if she did not tell the truth, that was so
a coworker of mine told me that I was bleeding a lot and all the time, every month, and she was just like, are you planning on having any more children? I was like, I had 3 C-sections, so I really don't want to. She was like, just get your life together. And it was the first person that put it that way to me.
That was you. And I want to shout Cindy out, guys, because she was so helpful during my time. And it's like, I really don't think I would have done it without the encouragement and without, the walk and just it's so many feelings behind it and so many. It's scary when you talk about
very scary
voluntary surgery, quote unquote voluntary. It's a scary decision to make. And when you said, it can change your life and you'll be feeling better. My gynecologist said it, but you hear those voices that say, oh, it's not the best thing to do, and blah, blah, blah. And then you also, as a Black woman, you already have that fear of, the mistreatment of doctors, and experimentation, all of those things. So it's just,
I waited 10 years of suffering and pain, that pain that you had. It was stupid. Once it was over, I was like, why did I wait? So I just didn't want it, like, because I had already had 3 C-sections. So I didn't want another cutting session. But when it was over, I was like, first of all, I got to keep most of my body intact. So that was the important thing to me, that I didn't, because when you hear hysterectomy, there's a lot of ignorance to it. You think menopause and everything's over down there, and it really isn't. They have ways to remove just certain parts. Like I can still get a period. So it's just amazing what the body can do. I still have my eggs. I still have I still can make a baby if I want to. I can take my ovaries out and put them somewhere.
IVF, like a lot of stars do.
You can still do it. You can still have a baby. You just can't carry it. But we're not really taught that when we're learning about hysterectomies. It's just told everything's gone and you don't have a way to do anything anymore. I don't have that story. You don't have that story. But it's, it's good to know. That's why we like to do these educational episodes. And it is a personal choice. And I was on the fence about actually telling mine, because Tim was like, I'll tell. And I was like, I don't know, because there is we'll talk about that a little bit later, about the stigmas of it and just wanting to share that. But like you said, I was helpful to you, but I went through it before you. And I went through what you were going through. It was just bringing back memories for me. So
you have no idea how helpful you were. Like I would tell David, I'm like, I spoke to Cindy today, and she's like, and he's like, you better listen to Cindy, because remember, he's going 6 and 7 weeks without. Without
your fun bag.
He's like, you better listen to Cindy and go.
You're welcome, David. You're welcome.
He's watching the suffering too. Remember, I remember one time we were on our way to a baseball game. Oh no, not a baseball game. A birthday party.
I remember you told
me. And it was like, I had such a heavy period. When I bent down to tie my shoes, like my clothes, everything was soiled. And I was just like, I can't go to a park like this. I have to stay home. And it was so debilitating, not knowing, always having to carry medicine and extra pads and wear diapers. It was so debilitating. And when I did it, I did feel kind of crazy for not having done it sooner, because I was like,
look how long I waited.
So much. And it's emotionally traumatic to me to think back of all the things I could have avoided without
It's not an easy decision, even though you're struggling. It's not and because you're always looking for it to get better. Like originally the doctor was like, if it's not bothering you, don't bother it. If you can handle it, handle it. But what he didn't say was when you get closer to menopause, you may have one of the symptoms of being closer to menopause is heavy periods. So you're closer to menopause. Once you hit 30, you're in the menopause. People don't know that, but once you hit 30, you're starting toward menopause. So your body's starting to prepare because it's like a 15-year process. So your body's starting to prepare for menopause. So your periods are getting heavier. That's one of the symptoms. So on top of you being perimenopausal, and then you have fibroids on. So you got like a perfect storm. So that's why I told you, I was like, Tiff, get it done. Because I bled for 3 months straight, or 4, I think it was 3 or 4 months straight with no stop.
I can't say what you told me because I had confided in you something and it made me laugh so much. And I was like, you are 100% right. I'm making my appointment. Like, come on.
Just by way of saying, that's why I have on white today. Because I made a vow to wear white whenever I freaking wanted to. After that, even after
and I have on red for the
same reason.
for all the traumatic times. I feel like I'm so low. The traumatic menstrual cycles that I've had, and just getting past that. And there are side effects. We said we would talk about the side effects. But then there's also side effects. There's, one, you may have abdominal pain. I know from time to time I still have that pain from what do you call it? What is it called? When your cycle is about to start, like
you're ovulating. I still get ovulating. I still ovulate too. I can tell when I'm ovulating.
And it's you may have those feelings if you still have your ovaries. I mean, that was pretty much my main side effect, aside from the initial healing with the, going back to the doctor because I wasn't listening and still trying to do stuff instead of sitting my butt down. But for the most part, that was all that I experienced with side effects. But I know a lot of people have gas, like they have this
bloating gas.
Yes, they have a lot of things. But compared to most of the side effects that I read, compared to what
it doesn't match up.
It did not match. So it's like when you are if you are a female that's making that decision, look at the side effects and then think about what you are making a decision to do and compare the two and see if it's worth it. And that's the best advice.
But the main side effects are the ones that's like with any other surgery: possibility of infection, possibility of clots. But those are things that you can handle. With the clots, you just have to walk that first week or 2 that you get out of. They're gonna make you walk right away. And then the infection, they got medicines for that too. Hey, it doesn't compare. Another one was damage to the bladder and intestines. Now that one is over time, I heard, and prolapse of your pelvic floor is weakened because you don't have a support anymore, especially if you get your cervix taken out. That's why I told you keep your cervix.
I
said please keep your cervix.
It's like a with the I don't know how to do it, but it's like a floor that
it's a floor.
Right.
This is the uterus. This is the uterus. This is the pelvis holding it up.
It's holding it up.
If you take this out, you have nothing. You know?
And that's where those exercises, they say do Kegels and things to strengthen down there, like the muscles, because there is a bunch of muscles down there as well. So I mean, you have that, and then there was some other one that they were saying happens a lot. I forgot what it was.
The tearing of the cervical cup. They stitch your cervix after they take out your uterus. So your body, pretty much, women have 2 parts. This will be the uterus, and this will be this should be the uterus. This will be the cervix, right? So when they take this out, they stitch this. So now you just have a big vacuous, big old empty space right here, and this is still your cervix. They make a stitch there. They call it a cuff. So if that tears, you start to bleed. So that can happen if you're doing exercises and stuff in the first 3 or 4 months. You shouldn't exercise like that. You shouldn't be doing like sit-ups and stuff. But that's not a common one. And they have things they can go right in, and they put this I forgot what they call it, silver or something. It's like a glue or something. They put it on
to kind of
to stop it from bleeding.
Basically close it back up.
Yeah, to close it back
Some
up.
of the other ones was hot flashes, vaginal dryness,
Yeah.
and night sweats, and that all goes along with the menopause. If
Yeah.
you may have had, because even if you have your ovaries, you may still your body may fast forward into menopause still.
Yeah, because your ovaries have to quote unquote wake up after the surgery. They may not. Like you go into surgery and then you wake up and your ovaries never wake up, so they just basically there. Mine woke up, and I started immediately having regular symptoms like regular. I still wouldn't know. I wouldn't feel like I had that surgery. On a regular basis, I really don't feel a lot of the differences. I see some differences, like hormonally, I feel I get a lot of hormonal changes because your cervix and your uterus and stuff is responsible for some of your hormones.
Yes.
So you can have hormonal changes, but I just noticed really is my belly.
Yeah.
That's my biggest one. I think out of everything is the belly fat, which was going to happen anyway with menopause.
Yeah. And some of the other side effects, and I know we said we would talk about this too, the emotional side effects of it. I didn't expect to be emotional about it afterwards. The one thing, I mean, I never wanted to have any more kids anyway. So it's like, okay, but the fact of knowing that you cannot carry another child in your body, the fact of knowing that it's the finality of it, it's like, wow, that part of me is gone. So let's say I did decide when I'm 45, I want to have another kid some crazy kind of way for whatever reason. if I can't do it, like I don't have that ability anymore and like you said earlier, when you have your ovaries, you can always still have them removed.
I can still do it.
Yeah, you can have a surrogate or whatever, but the fact of having a child grow within your body, it's like that part was gone, and it hit me kind of like out of nowhere, because I was like, I told David, I was like, I can't have any more kids for you. And he's like, I'm sorry. With that, like I said, it hit me out of nowhere. It was so emotional, and I was just like crying. And I'm like, I never even planned on having one kid.
You didn't care, but when somebody tells you can't, it's different.
Right. It was so weird. It was like and they say women feel that less of a woman feeling because now I can't do the thing that my body is supposed to be designed to do.
Yes.
So and like I said, anybody that knows me knows I'm like, kids, whatever.
No. You ain't even the two you had was like, I don't want no babies.
Yeah, I told him, I said, you lucky you made it through.
Yeah, I'm saying, you got it. Look, you got it.
Like you made it through. Look, hey.
You made it through. I didn't really necessarily want kids either. I'm just a baby making factory.
Oh,
so
man.
I had 3, just like, I'm pregnant again. And I believe if I was even more careless, I would have been pregnant more times.
Oh, wow.
But like you said, I even struggled with this episode because we had talked about doing this episode for a while. And I didn't necessarily want to share that part of my life because there's not many things I'm like kind of reserved about. I'll talk about being married young, having a baby young. But when it came to talking about the hysterectomy, I don't know what it was, but it was just this feeling of a little bit of almost like it's a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
Somehow you're barren. Somehow you're less of a woman. Is it working down there? Let me tell you, it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's working.
Yes.
It's working, and it works better now. How about that?
Yes, because anytime you want, there's no 7-day waiting period, or
It's so much freedom attached to it. It's indescribable. I'm telling you, I wear white when I freaking want to. Winter, summer, that was not something I could do in the past. For 10 years, I had to be conscious of when I could wear certain clothing.
And sometimes it would, I know with mine,
out of nowhere.
My menstrual cycles were so irregular. Like it would be, I just got off of the cycle and then the next week I'm on. So I would never wear white. And now I do.
Yeah.
So
that's why I wear white.
But it's so crazy because when you say the stigma, I was watching something with Gabrielle Union, and she was saying how, her infertility, people don't talk about it. And I think the importance of doing this episode is the fact that there's so many women that go through what we've went through. To talk about it and to share it helps someone else. And she was saying that with the infertility, she said, it's almost like a shroud of judgment and a stigma when there's so many people that go through what we've gone through. To share it is to help someone else. So that's why
it's true. I saw her on The View.
Yes,
I saw her on The View. I saw her on The View, and she really touched me when she talked about that. I would like to go from another standpoint. Menopause, perimenopause, and having a hysterectomy, there's a stigma with women that are not married. Because
Yes.
who's going to marry you if you can't even give them a baby? Like when you're married and you go through that, it will be painful. We can't have any children anymore, but you've already covenanted with somebody. But when
Okay.
you're in my age group and you're single, who's like, what man is, I mean, not that he would be looking at me at 50 and saying, yeah, let's have a baby.
That's what I was gonna say.
But,
I'm like,
yeah, my friend told me,
like,
sick
hey,
man, you gonna have a geriatric baby.
and then you'll be dead before he's like having kids of his own. Like,
But when you say hysterectomy, it's like, okay, so you can't. I mean, I can technically, if I wanted to, give my eggs over and do it, but I'm not interested in a baby anyway, like you said. But it's still that feeling of when I'm in the dating role, how much do I share of that information? Because then that person may say, definitely
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Definitely not.
And that is another emotional side effect that
Yeah.
we talked about, the emotional part of it, where it's like, well, what do I share? Like, and you're absolutely correct. When you're married, the person is already going through that process with you. If I was to start dating again, hopefully the guy I'm dating is like 50 something, 60 something. He's like,
yeah, that's pretty much, yeah.
I'll just say knock on wood, because David said we'll be together forever. So
oh, you guys are, yes.
until one of us kill each other. But
yes.
that's not
hey.
but it's almost like it's one of those things where what do you disclose to someone that you're interested in, and how do you explain it? And for younger women, I can only imagine how you broach this topic with someone you're interested in dating when you don't have the ability to form a family the traditional
and you know the site that we were on, the Hyster Sisters, which I want to shout them out. Hyster Sisters, if you're having these issues to sign, and I had sent you over there, it was a godsend. There's a lot of young women that had to have a hysterectomy for endometriosis and for fibroids, and it almost sounds selfish. People think you did it because you didn't want a period anymore, or you did it because you didn't want children anymore. No, I was suffering, and so I had to have this procedure. And I'm at the point now, the person that I get with ultimately,
I feel like
look at that.
I'm so far behind.
But I'm at the point now, I'm growing into the point of, listen, this was my personal story. It was a struggle that I went through for 10 years. You didn't know me when it happened. If that's something that sends you in the opposite direction, then God didn't have you for me. He just didn't. That's the bottom line. God didn't send you for me if that's the deal breaker. I get it, because everybody should pursue their happiness, you know.
But
everybody
there's also so many ways to have a family. There's so many different ways, as you see from just life in itself. I mean, you have adoption, you have IVF, you have surrogacy, you have so many different ways to form a family. And there are a lot of kids that are out there that's already born that need love too. So it's like it's just, I mean, if that's the deal breaker, like you said, then
at 50, I gotta I've learned one thing in life: let people pursue their happiness. Because if you beg them, force them, and do all of this to try to keep them in your life, you're not gonna be happy anyway, and you're gonna be doing all the work to maintain it.
They'll resent you, like you said. They'll be resentful. It'll be
and children are a noble thing to want. So I'm not mad at you. So you know, and honestly, where I'm going, I'm gonna date probably in that realm of you don't want kids. So
like I don't want any.
That's what I'm looking at me to happen.
Hopefully, and like you said, if you meet someone that may have wanted kids or wants kids, then there's different realms or ways to do that. There's so many different avenues to. I mean, if people that are gay or lesbian are having children and having whole families, and you know they can't biologically have the children like that themselves, then there's a way.
That's a great point.
There's a way to have a family and be happy. Just so I wouldn't. I mean, that shouldn't be your major factor, your health or pleasing someone else that may or may not be for you. So
because I think I'm in great shape. I think emotionally I'm all grown up. Not all grown up, guys, for God's sake. I'm growing up.
None of us are all grown up.
I'm growing up. I'm more, more aware of myself now, and I'm more accepting of the way things are instead of forcing it. But I think this was a great conversation. I'm glad you pulled me out into sharing it. It's out there now.
Well, the one thing we didn't talk about real quick was the regrets. Are there any regrets?
Oh, absolutely not. I kind of thought we did, because absolutely not. I don't regret it.
I'm like, it's the best thing to me.
Best thing ever. Best thing ever.
It was a great decision on my end to have it. And
Yep.
I mean, maybe it was easier because we did have children, and we would like to hear thoughts from people, women or men, that
Yeah.
may be going through this situation where they don't have children as well,
Right.
where it may be I'm sure it's a more difficult decision than it
Yeah,
was,
it's harder.
but
Yeah.
I mean, they're coming from a different place. But it definitely, from a health standpoint, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just look and I'm like, D, can you remember when I was going through this? And he's like, I know, I told you.
And
I'm
and
like,
you just passed your 2-year anniversary. I call it Hysterectomy. I
yeah.
have a party every year in March. Mine was March of 18, so it was 3 years ago in March. And yours was 2 years ago in June, right?
Yep, it was
Yeah,
June
so
26, 2019, on Donnie's birthday. And I was like,
wow.
I told him, I said, if I die on the table, please don't tell him until the
Aw.
next day, because I didn't want him to ever
Aw.
have that. Like,
Aw.
oh, my birthday, my mom is dead.
Yeah, my mother
I
died
was
on
just
my
thinking all
birthday.
kind of
Great.
crazy.
For quote unquote elective surgery, because it's looked at as elective almost.
Yeah,
It's
but
not.
it saved my life. I wasn't I'll just say this one last thing. I was anemic to the point where I was falling asleep at my desk, like literally.
Hello.
My body, my energy was so drained. I would sit there and I'd be like, okay, D, I'm so. And
Yep.
he'd be like, what?
I had to see a hematologist, and he told me, he said, I'm not going to give you any blood. I said, why? My blood was like a 6, and it's supposed to be, if you know, blood anemia is supposed to be like a
10
12.
11. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, I'm not giving it to you. I was like, why? He said, because you have a problem. It's like a sieve.
Yes.
I'm putting blood into you and you're bleeding.
Yes.
So it's just like going like this. He was like, it doesn't make sense to give you blood. He said, you're going to have to take care of the problem. So people think it's a light decision. It took me 10 years to make it. And it took me 1 year of real dedication, and had one very supportive person, a man in my life that was just wonderful. And he was like, listen, you got to get it taken care of. You're not living. You're missing parties. You can't wear anything. I've had so many disgusting stories of, as a teacher, you can't just get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the teaching. So he was like, you got to get it taken care of. But anyway, we have angels in our life that help us through this process, and we want to be your angels, guys.
So if you have any questions, always email us to polychicks@gmail. Any topic suggestions, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 2polychicks. And if you're watching this video, then you know Polychicks on YouTube. Bye, guys.
And did you say like?
Oh, I always say like if you like it, of course, and dislike if you dislike it, and leave us a comment. Let us know. Okay.
Bye, guys.